TikTok.
I just know it, but I don't know much about it.
Bad Bunny.
Huh?
Or Tinder.
Doesn't ring a bell.
It wouldn't because you met your husband the right way. So you're good. You're good.
Just add everything.
Everything. Yes, hello, and welcome back to the Pop-Up with Paul and Friends. I'm Paul. You're my friends for listening. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you for all the reviews and stars. And also, I want to thank you in advance for subscribing. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe now. And if you already are, you're hearing me again weekly. We're back. What you just saw was 102-year-old Marguerite Hodge playing a game with me to see what she thought of modern words and phrases and technology. Now, here's a story behind Marguerite. I did a segment with her for my day job at NBC. We went to where she lives. We did a segment on Spunky Old Broads Day. Spunky Old Broads Day is a real day created by a doctor who wanted to destigmatize the word broads by living full of zest and living a full life post-50 for women, right? We go there. I talked with a bunch of old ladies. Loved it. I could say old ladies because that's what they called it. Had a great time. And I love this woman so much. I thought, you know what? I want to talk with her more. And the specific thing with me, with people who are older, is I think we have so much to learn from these people. I don't have my grandparents anymore, but I also think we live such fast lives with technology today and the way we all live. We don't connect. We don't get to learn from our elders. I think there's a lot of power, truth, and importance in conversations with these people. And I think that's so much that I decided instead of doing pop-up in the studio, we're going to bring the pop-up to Marguerite.
Pop-up with Paul, literally.
It was so fun chatting with you. I had to come back.
I was so flattered. I've told everybody. And so my relatives have been on the East Coast and the West Coast telling all of my relatives that I won't tell them.
You were on TV.
I'm on TV. We talked about the family.
Yeah.
And how blessed I have been that I am the eldest of a Methodist minister and a teacher who graduated from Westchester Teachers College in 1911.
Wow. You are a century, right? Am I wrong? You're a century and some change.
See, the picture over there in the corner says May 21, 2020.
Wow, 1920 to 2020 was your 100th birthday.
Yes, my 100th birthday.
And tell everybody who doesn't know right now, you're about to be how old?
103.
We're going to clap real quick. Everybody clap who's in here. That's a feat in of itself. The reason I wanted to chat with you, this is the pop-up show. We pop up anywhere. We talk to all walks of life. I have a studio. We wanted to bring the studio to you because just chatting with you, the few minutes I spent with you, you had such a good perspective on life. You had such a good perspective on what matters. I remember you saying, be kind to people, be of service, go do fun things, be active.
And this is what I try to encourage so many of the folk here who come from different walks of life. And some of the people have not had the blessing that I've had. They've had more financially. I came from a background with education. My father was a minister. So he preached from the Bible. My mother was a teacher, and she encouraged us for an education. Mm-hmm. And that's why I have it.
Does money matter that much in life?
It matters up to the point of being able to obtain the things that you need. So what happened? My mother encouraged us to get an education. Unfortunately, this was during the Depression. No one told us that it cost money to go to school. Right. So we all tried to do it.
They instilled the right things in you to go to school.
They said, go out, and what you could rely on are people helping you do it. I left home with $75.
Which, wait a second, that's a lot of money back then.
In Media, Pennsylvania. And I got on the Greyhound bus and went to Washington, D.C. In those days, people reached out to people. And so I arrived at my cousin's house on my way to college with $75.
And how old were you when you left to go to Virginia, do you think, roughly?
I would have been about 17.
17. So
Yeah.
so you were 1937. 20 to 17. Am I right with the math? I'm so bad at math. So this is an inflation calculator. I want you guys to understand. $75 from 1937 today is 1,558 because the dollar has changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
What's the like cheapest thing you remember buying back then? Like a stick of gum was what? A cent? No, 25 cents?
25 cents for every. Well, I remember a loaf of bread was like a 10 cents a loaf. We had a lot of oatmeal for breakfast and a loaf of bread. I could tell you that I walked all over Washington, D.C. At that time, the war broke out. Remember?
You were in D.C. when World War II broke out?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the capital. What was that feeling like?
1941 was Pearl Harbor.
Wow. And do you remember that day?
I was sitting at my desk at Virginia State College.
Wow.
Stayed in Washington. I met this other cousin who took me in for rent-free for all that time.
Are you sure you're not Italian? Because you keep saying, I met this cousin. I mean, it sounds like me in Jersey. I got my cousin over here. I got this cousin over there.
Oh, wait a minute. We're going to have a family reunion in August.
Wow. How do you keep your memory so sharp? I feel like for your age, what is it? The food you eat? Is it the talking about it often? What is it?
Number one, I think, is being blessed that my mom said, assume that we just did things. And we know there was never a question.
Yeah.
And we just always grew up reading and studying and going around. We lived on the East Coast in small towns. People took us in like my cousins, and you didn't even discuss it. You
It was
just
just
came.
how life was.
You just came.
Yeah. Do you think we talk about too much? Do we know too much these days? Like, I feel like everyone gets bogged down by information now. You're just describing how life was.
Yeah. The interesting thing, you don't even think about it. You just you live it.
You live it. I mean, I speak for my generation when I think there's a lot of complaining going on right now.
Yeah, well, see, you are younger than my son. By the way, I have a son who, fortunately, my husband and I, through our various and sundry efforts, he was able to go to medical school.
Well, it's amazing that it sounds like your father instilled faith and education in
my
you,
mother.
and then your mother, and then you pass it on to your son. And it
Yeah.
sounds like the theme is family and education, right?
Well, the interesting thing about it is I went to Virginia State College, and I got into Howard and met some of the most outstanding African educators. These people were ahead of their time.
Right.
too.
I was going to say, you had great examples of people doing interesting, creative, and educational things.
And you was expected to do this.
Yeah.
You followed suit.
Yeah.
You never thought about it.
Yeah.
So when I got to Chicago, and after Howard, I graduated in Howard in 1943. I think I have to look on I'll show you I have some plaques on the wall, on the other wall going out the door.
I love your apartment, by the way, has so many cool. We're going to take footage of it later, but there's so many cool things, including these angels hugging. I think is a nice message for everybody to see. What amazes me about your journey is you've had a perspective. I remember from meeting you the first day. You have this perspective of kind of as life comes, find the good things, follow good people, education, right?
Yeah.
How have you kept that perspective your whole life? Because I think, even for my age, a little bit younger,
Yeah.
I cannot remember to keep a good perspective on things. So it seems like you have the right attitude. And some people would say
the thing of it is, it's just been sort of injected in you. You don't think about it.
why LA? Why'd you come out here?
Well, there was a young man that you see over there with me.
Yeah, a young phone call.
Just let it ring.
Do you want me to answer it while in the middle of the show for you?
No, we'll just let it go. Let it go,
Okay.
and that's about that.
By the way, this is refreshing for me to hear. I haven't heard a landline in like 10 years myself. It's old school in here. The landline is good.
That what you call has in his hand.
Hold on one second. Sharon, you're on the podcast. But you don't know. Hold on one second. Your husband, look at this stud and look at this beautiful woman with the cigar hanging out, night out on the town. It looks like back then. I'm just curious. We have people on swipe phones now to find dates with their thumbs. Walk me through, I'm sure you remember meeting your husband. What's it like to ask somebody out on a date? And what in 1940, late 40s, it sounds like in my head, right?
Yeah.
What was that like? How did he court you?
Well, the interesting thing about it was that I had a friend, and the young man had just arrived from Los Angeles to Chicago. And they had invited me over to their house for dinner and said if I could bring my date or my guest. And that's how we met, at my girlfriend's house.
Oh. And you it just was through friends. You sat down together. The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
And that's stuff you can't put on an app. It's human connection, right? It's chemistry. What does he say? I got to go back to LA, but I want to take you to dinner, or what is it? What happened?
So he wanted to know where I lived, and he would take me home. So I said fine, and we walked out. And in Chicago, in those days, we didn't have cars like you have in Los Angeles.
No Teslas.
You wore the subways and the taxi cab.
Yeah.
So he says, I'll take you home. So I said, fine. So I go out in the snow that was on the ground. And the gentleman had driven from Los Angeles to Chicago with a Buick this long. I was impressed.
That's cool. He had a nice Buick. It helped seal the deal. That nice old car. I know those boats.
He came by the next day and took me to this nice Italian restaurant.
Okay. You may have seen one of my cousins then there back in the day.
And
Actually, no, not Chicago.
So from then on, at least once a week or more, he would come and take me out to dinner. So I was very impressed.
Once a week, yeah, and he was committed.
In Chicago,
That's nice.
And from then on, for 2 years, we dated.
Wow.
It was 2 years after I met him that we were married.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So he was very, very close to his minister, and he took the minister to Las Vegas. The minister had never been to, that was that was not the kind of place that ministers went to. But anyway, because he was a close friend of my husband, he agreed I get off the train at 5 o'clock in the morning and met my husband and the minister, his sister, and my best friend. Then it was a matter of where would we go to get the license. Mm-hmm. Well, in those days, and I guess still, in Las Vegas, never closed down.
That's right.
5 o'clock in the morning.
You can get married any hour in Vegas, right?
We went to the courthouse and got our license. Well, we couldn't go to the hotels because they didn't take us in.
Really? Well, this was in the late 40s.
The entertainers, like Duke Ellington and Ella Fitzgerald,
sure,
those people couldn't even stay in the hotels.
Wow.
So we were married. Then we got back in the car and drive to Los Angeles.
Wow, what a good journey to establish the marriage. Also debunking the myth about Vegas, because you guys stayed together. You can get married in Vegas and have a great, beautiful marriage. A lot of people do it on a whim. And this was still the late 40s. What year did you get married? 1940?
Yeah.
I can't do math anymore. How do you keep track of the math? You know you're 102. That's what you know.
That part I know.
That's what you know. You're counting down the days to 103, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever sit and think about the decades you've lived through in America? Because starting out from when you were a girl.
I graduated from Howard and graduated from the University of Chicago. Those facilities were open to us. It was prior to that people had to pay a dear price, much greater than what I had to. Mm-hmm. When I got to Chicago with my master's degree, I had no problem getting a job because social work was wide open field. They were so anxious to have educated, trained people in these facilities we really didn't have too much of a problem.
Yeah.
By that time.
Which is amazing about your history with education. It was like it was smart of your parents to instill that in you. Let's go to school, study.
Well, education, as I say, I laugh and I say, my father preached the Bible and my mother preached education.
And you got the best of both worlds, it sounds like. Because there's a lot of Jesus in here and there's a lot of books. So I think there's a little bit of both still to this day.
Listen, I'm still unpacking. I'm still unpacking.
I bet. I'm curious about American history too. Like, is there one event that stands out to you in 102 years as being the most memorable day for you in America?
Well,
I have a few guesses,
the
but I'm
war
curious.
ended in 1945, World War II. I was downtown Chicago with the other thousands of people celebrating the ending of the war.
In 1945. I imagine jazz music on the streets,
Oh,
bells.
listen, it was a sea of people.
Yeah, just partying.
It was a sea of people. You know, when the war ended, people. This has been going on for 5 or 10 years.
What about during World War II? Because it's so interesting
Yeah.
to talk to someone from that time.
Yeah.
Was American life even harder when we were at war? Was it like...
Well, it was very hard because they had to limit food limitation. You know, you couldn't get meat and you couldn't get different products and stuff because it was needed for the war effort. So that was one of the things that was going on during the war years.
It's a scary time. People say today is scary too. I always wonder though. I think it was harder then. That's my
because
opinion.
there were less resources.
Right? We have a lot more things maybe that can help today versus then.
It's just like another world.
Does it feel like that?
We're living in another world. And that's what many people in your generation don't understand.
What is the weirdest thing that's happened in the current times that you look back at being a young girl and you go, that's crazy? Is it the phones? Is there something that stands out?
Just add everything.
Everything. Everything.
Everything is so different.
They're charging cars now in the driveways.
Well, the thing about it is I had my first car after I got married and came here. I had never owned a car because on the East Coast, you couldn't afford it.
Right. And it's crazy talking to you about technology a little bit too, because there's something now called ChatGPT. Is that right? ChatGPT? There's a computer that if you type in a certain thing, so if I said, tell me a story about World War II and what life was like in American World War II, it would respond back with an authentic human story, and it's a computer.
Yeah.
Does that scare you a little bit from coming from where you come from?
It's so scary because I don't understand it.
You remember the movie Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Do you know that movie? I'll be back. Do you know that?
I don't look at movies that much.
Oh, really? That might be what kept you nice and educated and smart, too. I don't know. I like movies. But there's some influence that's not always good. You don't have a vice, it seems like. I remember talking to you. You said you don't really drink or smoke or anything like that. Or did you?
Which brand?
Hey, you could say this is loose. We're not on...
Which brand? Okay.
Which brand? That's good.
And I did smoke for a while, for about 25 years.
Wow.
And then one of the jobs that I had for the longest was the American Lung Association, supporting giving up smoking.
Yeah, they had a prerequisite for the job interview, right? It said, I don't know if you could do that.
So for 10 years, the American Lung Association organized the communities of California to get people like you and you and you to sign a petition that smoking was bad for you. So for 10 years, we went into all kinds of stores and get people to stop smoking. And after 10 years of effort, we went to Sacramento and convinced the legislators that this was not a good idea for people to smoke. And we convinced them because we had 10 years of signatures of the residents of California, and they signed the thing. And that's why you don't have smoking in restaurants in California. And California led the way, and the other 40 states followed suit after that.
Wow, and that's amazing to hear you were like in the beginning phase of that research.
I helped I helped to get signatures.
You got signatures, and you gave it up, which could have helped
Oh
you
yeah,
in the long
I
run,
gave it up
too.
before that.
So it is kind of also nice to hear that, moderation that people say for a long life is key. Do you feel that way about that type of thing? Do you drink alcohol ever? Did you?
Oh yeah, I still do.
Really? What do you
well,
drink?
Primarily wine.
Really?
Now. Oh yeah.
This is what I need to hear.
But during my heyday in Chicago,
It's a little more, yeah.
I drank more than wine.
I believe that. But you're 102, and the fact you're telling me you're drinking wine, which my people make really well, is good for me to hear. I like hearing that. If we look at our American history, I think us as Americans now, we think of our history as being far away. When you're a representation of someone who's really been through all of the crazy events of the past century.
Yeah. See, movement was still not enough. That's my attitude. That the American people, in some respects, have progressed in terms of interpersonal relationship and giving everybody their fair share. And I feel, unfortunately, that people of means, money, power, have taken advantage of the rest of the population. So he wasn't given an opportunity to go to Harvard because his family didn't have money. My son didn't go to Harvard because he didn't have money. But somebody across the street or down the avenue did have those opportunities.
Right.
Not that they were any smarter.
Right. It's
but because
systemic.
of things of what was in their favor.
Yeah.
And that we have got to get to the place where you accept the capabilities of people and not who they are and what.
Yeah, it's kind of the almighty dollar in a way, because I don't know, has that changed, you think, since you were young? Were there the rich people getting ahead back then?
Oh, it was worse.
Oh, really?
Well, they had more of them.
Yeah,
They had more.
Yeah.
They had more.
It was, the disparity was even worse, probably. I don't know. I mean,
well, remember the Depression.
yeah,
I remember I lived through the Depression.
that's you did. Wait, it's hard to even say all of them. The Depression, World War II,
Yeah.
the 60s, civil rights, assassination. I don't mean to diminish all these, by the way. I'm saying them within 30 seconds.
War.
But
And the war.
The
and
war.
wars. I'm trying, how can you think of one over the other?
I know, it's so many different things. Do you think, because I kind of harped on this before with like the social media of the world. I get stressed out now with the pandemic, with things happening in the world, with social media, with people talking. Do you think we have too much information now that makes us anxious, or like, does it seem like more problems, or do you think that you had more back then and you didn't talk about everything as much? I don't know.
I think it's the quality or the quantity or something. I don't think it's more or less. It's the kind of problems that we have. And unfortunately, I feel that the mental health of our populations is so much more devastating, so that more people are being devastated and taken out. Like the shootings.
Yeah.
See, far as I'm concerned, why should we have a company manufacture an instrument that will kill people?
Right.
Why should they make money over somebody being killed when that person who's doing the killing is mentally ill?
Yeah.
And nobody's doing anything about it.
Yeah. Well,
That's my problem.
Yeah, you make a really valid point about that issue. It's
I
a
mean,
business.
I just
And same
don't
with
think-
healthcare. They're businesses, right? It's a business.
It's more than a business. It's a racket.
Yeah. See, I like this side of you. I knew you had this in you. Yeah, we got to get her some wine. I like this.
I've got something.
Could we have a glass of wine together?
Yeah.
Would you mind? I would really be honored to have a glass of wine with you for the
listen,
show.
I'll be glad to. I don't want to miss my dinner.
What time? Are we okay on time? Because
No.
sharing a glass of wine with you in the conversation we're having, I think, would be really special.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Oh, perfect. How's that? La crema?
That's okay. Whatever you get. I just feel so blessed that I have survived and hope that I can share my experience with other people.
Right. Oh my gosh, is your happy 100th birthday, Marguerite Hodge, over 100 years of love. These are the perfect glasses. Thank you so much for cheers. Cheers. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
the time and the wisdom and a glass of wine. It's a very
I
special
may
glass of
not
wine.
finish all of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's nice. It's refreshing. A little cold air. All right, now we can really talk. So when we met, we talked about, we were doing a segment on Spunky Old Broads
Sure,
Day.
yeah.
And I remember asking you what makes you spunky. And you did say you get around, you talk to everybody, you try and help people.
Yeah.
In a way, you're always looking out for an experience and also to be of service.
Yeah,
I think that keeps you young.
Whenever I find someone who's having some stresses, I try to make them look at life. Look, you can't just stress. You have to think of the positive.
Is there a trick to staying positive?
It's not necessarily a trick, but you just say, I'm blessed every morning
Nice.
and every night.
My version of that is F it. I say F it. We're living. I think you've kept a perspective on life that's really important. And also, you are around people. You're reminding me of community. Like, we have to be around people.
Yeah.
Talking about mental health and stuff. Like, if you're not around people.
My theory is the more we can do, the less problems we would have. Mm-hmm. If I see him having a problem, and I talk with him, and I say, "Can I help you?" and he doesn't do it, he says, "Okay, but I'm here for you. If you want, come back, and I'll see if I can help you."
Before I go, there's something I
Okay.
wanted to do with you. It's a quick rapid fire game.
Okay.
I'm going to rattle off things of my generation that are new, and I just want you to give me a one-sentence response to whatever the thing is, okay? We're going to get Marguerite's 102 perspective on the current world. TikTok.
I just know it, but I don't know much about it.
iPhones.
I'm still having problems. I try to pick up my phone, and somebody else comes on, and that's not who I call.
Bad Bunny. Not sure. I mean, me neither, really. I'm sorry. I don't listen to him too much. He's a musical artist. His name is Bad Bunny.
Huh?
Twitter.
I've heard the name.
Streaming. The word streaming.
I've heard the word, but I don't know it.
Starbucks.
Huh?
Starbucks.
Yeah.
Do you know Starbucks?
Yeah, I think I do.
It's a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You're not missing much. They burn all the coffee. They're not a sponsor of this show. Don't worry. Tinder. Tinder.
Doesn't ring a bell.
It wouldn't, because you met your husband the right way. So you're good. You're good. OnlyFans. OnlyFans. I'd like you and my wife to know I don't know that either. That one. I don't know that one. I don't want to know that. I want to thank you so much for spending the time with me, Marguerite. It was really amazing to get to know you better.
Well,
And I really think we can learn a lot from people like you. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your life with us. And I appreciate the time and the wine.
I'm glad that I was able to make a contribution.
You made a contribution. You helped me. And I appreciate that. Cheers to you.
Okay.
You were a very sweet, spunky
Thank you.
young lady.
Thank you.